Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Flood31 gaming podcast. Hope you're all doing well. Today, we have a very special episode. We are discussing something very close to my heart, something that I've loved since I was a little boy. And the subject today is going to be Transformers. With me is another very special guest of mine, a friend of mine, Matt. Say hello.
Hello there.
How's it going, mate? You all right?
Yes, good mate, good.
Yes, good. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on. Although I should be thanking you because you've been politely pestering me to do this podcast episode for a while, and of course you wanted to discuss Transformers, and obviously as soon as you said the subject, I was like, yep, let's do this when you're free. So um, obviously a little bit introduction, obviously Transformers for myself. I've loved Transformers ever since I watched the 80s cartoon back in the day. I used to watch it on Saturday morning cartoons when that was a thing. And we used to have a thing called a VHS tape where we used to watch episodes of Transformers, and I've loved it ever since. And even I'm in my late 30s, approaching 40, and I still watch Transformers cartoons and play games to this day. So when you mentioned about having Transformers as the subject, I was more than happy. And I don't think we can cover everything in one podcast, but
Probably not, no.
we'll give it a go. So basically, I just want you to obviously to introduce yourself and obviously tell me who your favorite Transformer is, and tell me when it started. Your passion for Transformers and how it's progressed for the years and what it's like today.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a good 16 years younger than you, so
Thanks, mate.
my journey with Transformers really started with the Bay films, much to your distaste.
There's
I
no
remember
hate here, mate. No hate today.
Yeah, I remember seeing the first Transformers film. I think maybe back in 2008. I think it was, and just everything about it was just so cool. And honestly, I just loved it from there. I think I've still got Transformers 2007 and Revenge of the Fallen on DVD. Um, and believe it or not, I do have the 86 film on Blu-ray.
Oh, finally, some good news. No, sorry, no hate, no hate, no hate.
But but yeah, I've loved Transformers since that point. I know my favorites. Believe it or not, my favorite film is Revenge of the Fallen.
Okay.
A lot of people hate on it for fair reason. It's like the Star Wars prequels. People hated on them for, horrid dialogue. A bit, it was a bit cringy at times.
Well,
But
nothing about the Star Wars films are bad.
oh no, I
I
completely
mean,
agree with you.
episode one
But
was, I like it because every story needs a beginning. If it's a slow burner, then it's a slow burner. That's just how it is. But you gotta build a story from somewhere. You can't just go, here's a Jedi, here's a bad guy, let's fight. You've got to be, some sort of, the Sith returning. But what age were you when the first Transformers film came out? Because was it 2009? Something like that?
2007.
2007.
And I was 7,
7 years old.
7 years
Oh,
old.
so have you gone back before that time? So obviously, we weren't alive when the first Star Wars came out in 77, although I wasn't too far away from that. But like, I still watch the old Star Wars films and go back and watch them, and they're great. But when you started watching the Bay Formers as they're known these days, and did you go back and look at older Transformers like TV shows like Generation 2, that sort of thing, and think, oh, this is actually really good? Or have you just stuck to the modern stuff to now?
Well, I can't say I've ever seen, like G2, Beast Wars. I think there was Beast Machines after that. I can't say I've seen any of them. The earliest thing I have seen would be the 86 movie. But after that, I think the next thing would be Transformers animated, which came like long after the what was it, the Unicorn trilogy, I think. Armada, Energon, and Cybertron.
Yeah, actually,
Not in that order.
Armada is one of the cartoons that I and the accompanying video game I actually really did like. I really enjoyed it, but it's difficult for me because we discuss Transformers like what 45 times a week. And
Something like that.
yeah, sometimes more. And I'm always a staunch protector of, like, G1. It's the best. It's no, nothing else compares to it. But at the end of the day, if you were born, say, like, if you're born tomorrow and in 20 years time, you'll have Transformers, yeah, that's the Transformers that you love, and you're not going to go, oh, the old stuff was better, or the stuff that's coming after is better. It's just the era you're born in. Like, I feel like I was born in the right time, because the Transformers cartoon had been going for a couple of years, and obviously I got into it, and I got my very first Transformer was Inferno. He was a season 2 fire truck on the Autobots, and he had that typical Southern accent, and I loved him. It was my favorite at the time, and um, you know, I just love that era. So I'm always I've watched the modern stuff, and obviously I've played that modern Transformers game. It's Battlegrounds, what it was called.
I think so. Yeah.
And I do enjoy it, but for me, nothing compares to Generation One. That's when, I know you keep saying it's blocky and stuff. You're like, oh, so blocky, but they were portraying as robots, and having, like, rounded arms and rounded legs. Apart from RC, obviously she's a woman, and they wanted to give her a female form. It just didn't look right. So
if you think she looked like a female form back in G1, you'll hate to see what the third party company's done.
I don't want to know. I don't want to ruin my childhood. But, like, was there, so in terms of, like, the Transformers and stuff, tell me about, like, your collections, what your favorite Transformers are, what sort of what the video games and any other media that you look into, rather than just the films. Is there anything else that you do, like comic books, or there's graphic novels, or I know you obviously have a vast collection of Transformer toys, but
Yeah.
tell me about them, and tell me about other media outlets that you use for your Transformers fix.
Well, there was the I do remember this fondly, and I'm gutted that I can't play it anymore. I need to find a way to play it, but the Transformers movie game, the first tie-in game. I know you played Revenge of the Fallen, you loved it. But the original Transformers game, I think it was on the PS2. Oh, just what a game that was! I don't know what it was about it, but it was just everything you'd want in a Transformers game was just right there. Like, sure,
What's the characters? Because the Revenge of the Fallen game, which, I'm not a Bayformers fan, but that game was good because it had a decent story. And it had the thing that I played the most was the multiplayer, the online stuff. So you could do stuff like, team deathmatch, and one shall stand, one shall fall, which is obviously one of you has to be Prime, one of you has to be Megatron, you have to protect your leader. That was quite a unique game mode, because you don't really see that sort of thing very often. Normally it's like Capture the Flag, or King of the Hill and stuff, but that was pretty cool. But everyone used to be like all the flyers, all the Seekers and Starscream and whatnot, and I always picked Sideways. He was like the smallest Decepticon. He was just an Audi TT, but he was really, really quick. So I could get from one place to another.
Sideways was so criminally underrated.
Yeah, he was absolutely a throwaway character. But he looked cool in terms of Bayformers, and he was really fast, had a cool machine gun in the game, and that's why I always picked him, because it's always fun being Megatron and being a tank, being Starscream and fly around, blah blah blah. Because if you fly around, no one could hide from you, because you'd always see them. But Sideways was just so quick and so small that I could hide places, and it was fun. So I did enjoy it. But tell me more about I didn't actually play the first Transformers game. Tell me who were the characters you can be, and what sort of gameplay it was.
Now, I don't recall there being a multiplayer function. There could have been, but it's been so long since I played it, I'll be honest. But I do remember the characters you could be, because there was an Autobot campaign and a Decepticon campaign. Obviously, the Autobot one follows the rough story of the first Bay film. But then the Decepticon campaign kind of like flips on its head. Same events, but in the favor of the Decepticons, if that makes sense.
Like, it changes the story, because, like, in the film, for example, in a certain fight, Prime beat Megatron, but in the game you could win as Megatron and change the story.
Yeah, pretty much. You remember like the Revenge of the Sith game, the ending. If you chose Anakin, And one with
yeah.
Anakin, it gave you like an alternate ending. It was like that.
And the high ground didn't matter. He
Yeah.
took out Obi-Wan
Yeah.
and he ends up turning on the Emperor and killing him too and becoming the
Yeah.
Emperor of the world. Yeah, that was a great finish.
Yeah.
But
It
those
it
sort of
kind
things
of
don't
had
happen
that
very often, do
alternate
they?
ending. No, which it was nice to see. And it literally just resulted, in Megatron and the Decepticons taking over Earth, like everything on fire. It was a cool ending, cool alternate ending, a nice little what if. Um, but yeah, as for the characters, I know for the Autobots, it was your main character was Bumblebee, and now I'll stand by it. Feel free to disagree, Sam, but my favorite iteration of Bumblebee is the Camaro,
That's
and that
that's okay. There's no hate today. But when the podcast finished, expect a text message from me. It's very scathing. No, but I appreciate they had to have some sort of like cool looking warrior that the kids can relate to, because obviously everyone loves Optimus Prime, but they want someone to be you know Prime's friend, Prime's confidant, that the kids can relate to, and they pick They could have picked any Autobot, and they picked Bumblebee because he does look cool in yellow. Don't get me wrong, but he's a very far cry from what he was in the 80s. But
yeah.
again, every iteration of Transformers is different. Some
Oh,
people
of
have
course,
different
yeah.
names and whatever. So the Bayformers, in my opinion, butchered the names of the Transformers, because two of the Decepticons were named after Constructicons. One of them actually called Devastator, which it doesn't make sense. But then again,
There were a couple of discrepancies with that. I think the
yeah, but there's
writers had gone on record to say that it was Brawl. It shouldn't have been Devastator, but I think it was just Michael Bay's input that
yeah,
because it sounded cooler.
yeah, but again, in an iteration of Transformers, maybe in the future, Bumblebee could be a bad guy. You just don't know. So
Yeah,
it's no hate. It's just I found objection to it, but I understand that people enjoy those films and they don't care what the names are, as long as the name sounds cool, like Blast Zone or whatever. That's cool. So no problem there.
yeah.
Now we both love the War for Cybertron games, don't we?
Yes, I can't say I've played them. I think I played. What was the first one? Fall of No, the first one was War
Yeah,
for
War for
Cybertron, wasn't it?
Cybertron, then Fall for Cybertron, and then
Yeah,
it ended up.
I think I played Fall of no, sorry, War for Cybertron on the PSP.
Oh, the
So
PSP.
yeah, the
Oh,
PSP. So I,
now
I
you're
can't
talking.
I can't say I've properly played them. I really want to, I just can't
Yeah.
because Activision binned the license.
Yeah, it's a shame. I know Hasbro license out the games to other companies akin to the Star Wars franchise these days. And I know they come up with that Transformers Battleground, which is kind of like if anyone who listening has played a game like XCOM 2 or Final Fantasy Tactics, it's like that, but for Transformers. It is cool, but again, some of the characters, like Optimus Prime has a mouth. That's always a no-no for me. And people like Will Jacker are like a southern cowboy. And
Oh dear.
obviously, but the gameplay is good. It is cartoony, obviously, because it's based on the kids cartoon show, but it does play well. It does have some cool add-on where you can go through a space bridge, and like it's a different reality, so the fights are different, or there's like debuffs or buffs on your characters to make it harder or easier, and you get points and you can buy more stuff for your Transformers, like abilities and weapons stuff. It is quite a cool game. It just needs to have more characters, because I think there's only 6. You can't even be the Decepticons, which is a shame. It's just all
That's a
only.
bit naff.
Yeah, but it's always nice to have like a campaign in a video game where you are the Decepticons. I enjoyed the Rise of the Dark Spark because it switched between the two factions, them doing their own missions. But it would be nice, like there's a few Lord of the Rings games where you can play the dark side as such. So there's a game called I think it's called the Third Age. It was like a Final Fantasy 10 kind of game where you run around and you stand in a line and take turns attacking and stuff, don't you? Like those sort of battle systems. But
Yeah.
once you completed the game, it unlocked the dark side. So you go through the story kind of in reverse, but as like the Urukai and bad guys and stuff, cast spells.
Oh,
It's actually really, really good. I quite enjoyed it. But back to Transformers. Tell me about your collection of toys, because I've got a few like classic ones that are reissues, only because they're cheaper. I don't mind them being reissues because they're just made from the same mold. They're just not made in the 80s. But tell
Yeah.
me about your collection, when it started, who's your first one, what's your current goals, and where you go in the future.
Oof, I don't think I can actually remember who my first Transformer was, to be
Huffer?
honest.
Was it Huffer?
No.
Oh.
I know it was I think it was either from the Revenge of the Fallen line or the '07 line. I think it was Revenge of the Fallen though. But for the life of me, I cannot remember um who the first one was. I mean, what always happens when you grow up, a lot of your collection just dies off, goes to other places. Um, but
Places in the
I
Sky.
Yeah, but I know the oldest figure I have in my collection currently is my Revenge of the Fallen leader class Megatron. And while that's by no means a good figure, I love it purely because it just holds that nostalgia for me. I mean, it looks nothing like the what how he does in the film, but the creative liberties they took with it were crazy because they had to put the gimmicks in, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah, and
But
it's similar to the reissue toys that I purchased. My last one was Astro Train. He's a triple changer of Decepticons. I think he's great. He's got a cool, unique voice. He's a train, so he has obviously a land mode, and he has a shuttle which can fly and go into space. So you know whilst I agree that Blitzwing is the best transformer in terms of having a tank and a jet plane
yeah,
as a
I
as a
love
as a
Blitzwing.
form, why be a car when you be a tank and a jet fighter? Astro Train was cool, and when I saw him on eBay, it's a reissue. It was one from, like, I think it's like 2017. Hasbro did some competition where you
Yeah,
where you vote on Instagram, and I think Astro Train won, and he was released in Walmart in America. So got him pretty cheap because he's a reissue, but it's still a mold of like the 80s version, and it's in my my box now, ready to be put on a display one day when I have the space to do so. But you know, I don't care how bad the 80s toys look. I don't care. What your toys look like. If it's the nostalgia. If you love them, then that's what matters, because they're your collection, sort of thing. So, what's
yeah.
your favorite one? Your favorite collection that you've got?
Oof, that's a tough one. That is a very tough one. Um,
Hot Rod?
uh, the new Rodimus Prime, I think is an absolutely stellar figure. Um,
Is that the one where he is Hot Rod, but then if you put him inside the carriage, he looks like Rodimus Prime?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
that I do like, because obviously Hot Rod and Rodimus Prime back in the 80s were two different toys. The Hot Rod toy was a bit better looking than the Rodimus Prime one, because obviously he just
yeah,
slotted into the carriage. It wasn't very good, but like having that toy being like a 2-for-1, I like the idea of it, and it does look good. But that's my if I was to get a modern Transformer toy, that would be the one, because I did like Hot Rod in the movies as well.
yeah. I mean, I do have a lot of the movie figures as well from the Studio Series line. I'd probably say the Studio Series 65 Blitzwing from the Bumblebee film. That is just an incredible figure. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the tank mode because he didn't in the film. But still, just the accuracy of the robot mode, and just the jet mode, just it's incredible to me. And I'd probably say the Series 56 Shockwave from Dark of the Moon.
Yeah, yeah.
Now they they poured so much accuracy into the robot mode. Like the alt mode was just an afterthought because obviously he didn't have one in Dark of the Moon. Um, but the fact that it looks so screen accurate, just just there on the windowsill. Um, but then he still has a tank mode, which looks good as well. Which I think, to say the tank mode was just an afterthought, to say, well, we need this to transform. Tank works. Let's put it in a tank. It it just works for
Okay.
me.
Okay.
But then I think for accuracy, I'd have to say I think it's SS61 Sentinel Prime.
We don't like Sentinel Prime, who do we?
We don't like Sentinel Prime because he
No.
killed Ironhide.
Yeah, he shot him in
That
the back when he was protecting him. I just what a despicable move.
it still
With the
hurts.
rust cannon as well. So he did literally just disintegrated in our eyes. It's like as much as I didn't like the Bayformers film, I did like Ratchet and Ironhide. They were pretty cool. And watching Ironhide die with the complete surprise on his face, I'm like, ah, oh, you fool.
Yeah.
You fool, Sentinel Prime. What are you doing? Yeah,
That
so we
no
don't like
that
him.
that still hurts.
It does.
10,
It
10,
does.
10 years on, that
It
that still hurts.
it does. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, just the absolute accuracy in the Sentinel Prime figure is just it's stupid how good the robot mode looks, and the fact that you can transform it into a convincing fire truck as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Which
he did look cool in a cool vehicle mode in the film, but I would like to wind back the clock a little bit. And you said you've seen the 80s animated movie.
I have.
For someone who started life as a Bayformer, tell me your thoughts about it. Tell me your favorite parts, and if you have one, which is obviously crazy, the part you didn't enjoy about the film.
um, I mean, what I'll start with what I didn't enjoy, just so we can end this little conversation on a high note. Um, for me, it's just the 80s cartoon. It was very cheesy, which has to be, which I will say that was the 80s in a nutshell, and I'm not going to take away from that fact. But from today's standards, it was very, very cheesy. And now, because of the technology of the time, and again, not having a dig on it for this too much, but it does look incredibly dated, like compared to some modern stuff, which I think you can agree with that, Sam.
No,
But
no, not at all. No, I mean, when you watch again another subject that we love the most, when you watch the very first Star Wars film, do you not think that looks dated?
it does. It looks very dated.
No, the answer is no, Matt. What are you doing to me? No, seriously, no. I apart from some animation errors with the series and the movie as a whole, because
Some.
there's an animation error of when the Decepticons ambush the Autobot shuttle and brutally murder some of my favorite Transformers.
Including Ironhide
Yeah, my boy Brawn,
again.
Ironhide, Prowl, Ratchet. I mean, they're the boys, right? And then the
Yeah.
next scene when Hot Rod shoots the plane and they fly out, as they're flying towards the city, and Megatron's like, "Do the slaughter!" Like I think you can actually see Ironhide fly with them, you know, and it's it's funny because those animation errors, like how they get through editing and whatever, I don't know, because it's like there's blatantly an Ironhide flying next to Megatron as even though he's just slaughtered him off screen, so he's not technically dead.
I actually have to go back and watch that now.
But there's loads of animation areas throughout the whole cartoon, and so, as there was animation areas with any 80s and 90s cartoon. You go back and watch it, like GI Joe, Visionaries, Thundercats, Ninja Turtles. I remember a scene where Michelangelo was talking to April O'Neil, and as he's talking, he's moving his head. As he's moving his head, his bandana kept changing color. You know, and those sort of animation areas, it's just time and money. They didn't have the money and the time to go for it properly and go, right, no one's gonna notice that, let's do it. And then like, hang on a second, is that Ironhide flying Megatron? You know, so uh, I would always defend the cartoon and the movie. Animation areas, cheesiness. You know, I would never hear a bad word said about it, as you know, with my scathing text messages.
Yeah.
But what about stuff that you did like?
The soundtrack for one. I'll stand by it and always say Stan Bush, The Touch is the
Yes.
best thing to come out of that film. Such a good track. The rest of the music was good. I'm not taken away from that fact, but for me, The Touch, because it happened at such a pivotal moment in the film as well. Obviously, when Hot Rod opens the Matrix of Leadership. It's not a spoiler. The film came out in 1986.
Well, I was going to say
Allow
that
it.
the song itself was played at the start of the film when.
It was when Hot Rod was going towards the city, wasn't it?
No. When Optimus Prime said Megatron must be stopped no matter the cost, and he transforms like you got the touch, and he drives away from the shuttle.
Yeah,
and it's
enough.
it's the most like I don't know, goosebumpy, chilly, hair stand on end moment.
Oh yeah,
ever, because it's like yes, Optimus Prime is a badass. So, but yeah, sorry, continue.
But yeah, for me, I think the Hot Rod opening the Matrix was just such a well done film, which is actually replicated in both the Studio Series 86 Hot Rod and the Kingdom Commander Class Rodimus Prime. Both come with a Matrix of Leadership with a blast effect, which replicates the kind of beams of light effect that came out when the Matrix opened.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Both of those figures actually come with like blast effects to simulate that, and like you can pose them holding the Matrix up with that blast effect coming out, and it looks incredible.
Yeah, especially when in the film when Hot Rod grabbed the Matrix from Galvatron's necklace, and as he's opened up, Optimus Prime was like, "Rise, Rodimus Prime."
Yeah,
that was like the passing of the torch. But obviously, it turned out from a political point of view, Hasbro wanted to get rid of the old and bring in the new,
which makes sense from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah, so if you notice that most of the Transformers after the movie, they were mainly plastic, no metal, and they had plastic wheels rather than rubber tires. Because if you look at Jazz, for example, he had rubber tires and he had like his chest part was metal. And to cut the production costs, they just basically because Transformers were taken from something called I think Diaclone, and Micro Man or Micro something like that is. So if you look at like the 80s Huffer toy on his door, you can see an M, and that stands for the toy line. They just took the mold and incorporated it in Transformers. So yeah, all they wanted to make their own toy line, even though they bought and incorporated the toy line into Transformers, and that's how they become Transformers after nicking the idea from GoBots. So they wanted to kill off all the Transformers and basically make their own toy line. Obviously cheaper to be plastic wheels and plastic toys rather than metal and stuff. So that's why they did it. But of course it caused quite a backlash because everyone loves Optimus Prime. Even if you're not a Transformers fan, even my mum knows who Optimus Prime is, not because I educate her all the time, because everyone knows who Darth Vader is, everyone knows who David Beckham is, everyone knows who the Queen is, that sort of thing,
I mean, so, some of those are in different brackets there, but
yeah,
I'll allow you train of thought.
You just know who people are through word of mouth. So when Hasbro got like loads of fan mail basically slagging off saying, why on earth is Optimus Prime dead?
Well, they brought him back, didn't they? They brought him back in season 3, was it?
Yeah, they changed the end of season 3 to be a two-parter called The Return of Optimus Prime. And then in the American and the Japanese season 4, after like 3 or 4 episodes, they killed him off again.
Really?
Yeah. He dies and Hot Rod takes over. So that was their plan the whole time. They just changed it to make us Westerners quite happy. But yeah, so having Prime pass the torch on to Rodimus was cool. Unicron being destroyed from within was pretty cool, and just the movie itself was cool. But
I think the Quintesson Pit of Judgment was very, very cool. That was a good scene.
Yeah, it's like guilty or innocent. Well, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go into the pool of shotguns anyway, so spare me this mockery of justice.
Oh yeah,
sort of thing. So
now the only bad thing about that part was Wheelie. Geez, oh my god, that was just Wheelie. I cannot stand G1 Wheelie. I thought it was
Wheelie and Huffer are two of the strongest Transformers.
Oh no! Now Wheelie from Revenge of the Fallen we can do because Listen.
Wasn't he a toaster?
That was it was a remote control monster truck. Fun fact about the toaster though, that was a minicon called Ejector, and I still have that toy.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
but no, Wheelie in Revenge of the Fallen was voiced by Tom Kenny, who did SpongeBob if you were unaware.
Oh, okay. I know who SpongeBob is, as
Yeah.
for word of mouth. Never watched the cartoon. So in terms of like Transformers themselves, if I was to say to you, who's your favorite Autobot, Decepticon, and subgroup, or combiner, which doesn't involve Volcanicus, who would it be?
Oof. Now you see that is a tough question. That is a very tough question. But I think I can't choose one specifically, but I'd go for my Autobots, I'd go for Bayformer's Ironhide.
Yeah.
Bayformer's Sideswipe and Transformers Prime Wheeljack.
Okay.
Now, Transformers Prime was a cartoon I grew up with, but for some reason in the UK, that it was just crazy because like you couldn't get any, you can't get on any of the episodes for it, like past season 1. Like Transformers Prime's on Netflix, but only season 1. There were 3 seasons in a movie. I mean, the movie's on YouTube somehow.
That's a bit strange.
There
It must be some sort of like licensing or some sort of deal with another
I'd
company or
imagine
whatever.
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was on. I don't even know what it was on, to be fair. But
I mean, we're not fans of exclusive deals, are we? So
no,
hashtag.
But yeah, I
KOTOR.
grew up with that. I grew up with that, and I thought it was Transformers Prime for me is the best Transformers out there. Me personally, that's what I'd say. I would recommend.
No hate.
I would recommend giving it a watch because honestly, just Transformers Prime was incredible.
Okay.
Wheeljack from that. I know I've sent you clips of him, Sam. He was part of the Wreckers. And while he wasn't as much of a scientist in Transformers Prime, he was still very cool. He had a retractable faceplate, as did Optimus Prime. Like how the Bay films did it with a retractable faceplate.
Yeah.
Which I thought worked really well. But Prime Wheeljack had 2 swords and a hell of a lot of grenades. And he was basically just a one-man army.
Yeah, I mean, I like Wheeljack. He was voiced by Chris Latta, who did the Starscream, Coma Commander, that sort of thing, in the original cartoon. You might not know who he is, but obviously it's the Starscream back in the G1 cartoon. And if you watch the stuff like like GI Joe, Action Force in the day as well, he's such a raspy, like evil voice. It was just so unique, and he voiced Wheeljack perfectly. And I enjoyed that him being a Lancia Stratus, and he had a really cool transform animation where like his arms would go above his head and form the back of the car. It was just a
Actually,
cool,
I think the Earthrise Wheeljack does that.
yeah, it's just a cool animation. So Wheeljack's a good choice. I'll allow that. What about Decepticon? And then obviously do a subgroup or a combiner.
Yeah. For the Decepticons, I'd have to say Blitzwing. Just as I think Transformers animated Blitzwing on that one. Because I thought what was quite cool, because obviously Blitzwing's a triple changer.
Yes.
He had 3 different personalities. So he had a cold and tactical like commander with a stereotypical German accent, I might add.
Nice.
He even had that the bucket helmet. I know the best way I can describe it, General Veers from Star Wars.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
That kind of helmet.
Yeah.
That was the design of his head.
Oh dear.
And obviously had a German accent, and you could see what they were going for. Let's put it that way. But then his second head was more of a barbarian brute with just no brains at all. And then the third head was like just a wild card, just crazy kind of personality. But I thought that worked very well. And I think because of the fact he was a triple changer, it just added that like uniqueness to him.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I think it worked, which is funny.
Okay.
But then I'd say Knockout from Transformers Prime again. Um, Such a good character. Mostly focused on keeping his paint job pristine, which was quite funny because he was always getting it banged in.
But I don't know who this person is. I've never heard of him.
Yeah, I think back in G1, I think Knockout might have been like, one of the Micro Masters or something.
Right. Okay. Okay.
You know how like Barricade was.
Yeah. 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 But
So I think,
I've never heard of that one before, so I don't know
yeah, I think
who he is.
Knockout was in the in G1. He was one of the Micro Masters, I believe. But Transformers Prime gave him like a full proper role um, as one of the main Decepticons in that. And I think just everything about him was good, funny. And like I say, the design was just incredible.
Yeah.
Um, I think who could I say for my third favorite Decepticon? I'd say Revenge of the Fallen Megatron. Personally, I think that for me that's the best design he's had in the Bay films.
Is that when he's
Um,
a tanker truck or a
yeah,
tank or whatever?
a tank, the
Tank. That's it. Yeah.
Cybertronian
Yeah.
tank.
That's
I
right. Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
that was just so cool. Like I say, that's the leader class figure I've got. Looks nothing like looks nothing like it personally, but they had to get the gimmick where you pull down a tab on his chest and he goes, "I am Megatron," which it's fun the first 20 times
And
you
then when he
hear
pushed the
it.
button by mistake, like, oops, oh, I am Megatron.
When
Shush.
you transform in it, I had to take the batteries out of it because it was like every time you like catch it when you when you transform in it, it's
Yeah,
like, oh,
I know.
I am
Yeah, I know you
Megatron.
feel.
Every time you raise his arm like past 45, it's because obviously he had a cannon for an arm, didn't he?
Yeah, but what
So
about
every time,
what about combiners and stuff? Because obviously I love combiners. My favorite is always Menasor from the Stundercons.
Mhm.
Um, I do like a subgroup. I do like the Insecticons. They look cool and they sound cool and they have some good designs. But tell me about combiners. I know there wasn't really many in the Bayformers films, but like all the
There was one.
other media you've seen, which ones are your favorites?
I don't know. I mean, there were two Bay combiners. There was obviously Devastator and Revenge of the Fallen, which I'll stand by it. The suck was while it was a unique design, I personally loved it. But I know a lot of people were offended by it. The one bit of trivia about Revenge of the Fallen and Devastator I remember was the 3D model that they had of it was that big that they had to store it in separate files because if they put all the files together, it like crashed the computers that they were on. Just because there was that much detail in it.
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
put all if
He
you
was a
put all of the
chunky boy.
files, if you put all the files together at once, it crashed the computers.
Yeah.
And then I think there was Infernicus in the last night, which was just it was just six of the exact same um, evil minions, just like combined to make a bigger version of it.
So nobody then.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, there was Dragonstorm as well, which is the massive dragon, which the Night Transformers transformed into. But it was all right. But I think for me, my personal favorite, apart from Volcanicus, which was a Dinobot combiner introduced in Combiner Wars, I think, a couple of years
Yes,
ago.
that's banned from the chat. Sorry.
That's fair.
No hate. You can have him. He's fine. That's fine.
Oh no. While he's cool, my favorite's Bruticus, the Combaticons, and
Yeah, good shout. Okay.
I would honestly love a either to get the third party. I think it's Ocular Max Assaultus. Obviously, they can't use the name for licensing reasons, but that third party figure or group of figures, I should say, just look absolutely incredible.
Can you name the five Combaticons?
I can. It was Brawl, Onslaught, Swindle, Blast Off, and
Come
I
on, you got
keep.
this. He was a helicopter.
I know it's the helicopter. I know I'm gonna be wrong, but blackout. I know it's not
Oh
blackout, but
no,
it's
it's Vortex.
that's the one.
Yeah,
It's basically
you make
blackout.
no. Let's not. No, no,
I'll
no,
take four and a
no.
half points for that.
Oh, what? I'll give you four
Yeah,
because
all right,
because
all
I
right.
because I like you. Yeah, no, Brutus is cool. He was cool to control in there's the Cybertron games. It's always nice to be a combiner. I've got a massive tattoo of Superior on my right leg, so you know I like him. Um, uh, I also like Brawn. Because obviously he was a small transformer, but he was one of the
Yeah,
strongest. I have a tattoo of him on my leg too, because why not?
yeah,
But obviously, you know, apart from Megatron and Prime, who are badass, I really liked Cliff Jumper, Trailbreaker, Hound,
yeah.
Ratchet, Blue Streak. They're all cool. I enjoyed Thundercracker, the three Insecticons, the Stunticons. They're all cool. But if I had to pick one, it would be Thundercracker in terms of
Yeah.
being my favorite Transformer. But is there any Transformers like designs that you didn't like, or personalities that you weren't a fan of?
Ooh.
Because
Um.
my brother Ben, who you know very well,
Yeah.
he doesn't like sea spray. Now sea
Okay.
spray
I
was
can see it. I can see
sea
it.
spray was for those who don't know, sea spray was the ocean commander, I think he was called, and he was just like a hovercraft, but he spoke like he was underwater, like that, that sort of thing.
Oh dear.
And Ben thinks he's absolutely awful. He calls him a rude name, something spray. I won't repeat it. But it always makes me laugh every time he says it. But yeah, he didn't like that design. But if I had to be critical and pick a design that I didn't like, it would probably be Cosmos. And if not sure who he is, he was season two Transformer. He was just basically a UFO, and he spent
Okay.
most of the time in space. He didn't really do anything. When he transformed, he's just this little thing. So you know, as much as I love all the Transformers, if I had to pick one that I didn't like the look of, it was Cosmos, and then followed by Huffer.
Now you've
Yeah.
got an interesting relationship with Hoffa.
Yeah, I've a love. I mean, I've always said to Ben again, and he agrees. I would watch an entire cartoon based on Huffer, if it meant I didn't have to watch any more Bayformer films. That's not me. That's not me hating on the Bayformer films. They're not my cup of tea. I appreciate that you like them, and I do like some aspects of them. But I I think Huff is awful. It's just a waste of a character because he's just nothing but moaning. He doesn't fight or do anything. He just gets caught and he's a bit wimpy. But I would still watch a 3 hour Lord of the Rings esque film on Huffer than I would any Bayformer films. That's not me hating.
He's still your Twitter profile picture, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, yeah. I think I've got him with the he's in the little the banner from Galaxy of Heroes with the 7 stars. So he's my 7 star unlock Huffer. Yeah, but I use him obviously for lol bounce. So, but
Yeah.
I'd still think Cosmos looks worse than Huffer. But what about yourself?
Um, I'd have to say, and as much as it was a unique design, and it was a really good design. It'd have to be Wheeljack from Dark of the Moon.
Okay.
Now Wheeljack wasn't, properly named in Dark of the Moon, only in its credits, where it turned out that the character of Q was Wheeljack. The
Oh
scientist,
yeah, wasn't it like
the
because he looked like
Albert Einstein.
yeah, and he was called
Yeah,
Q slash Wheeljack in the credits. I'm like,
yeah,
well, just pick a name.
yeah.
Why is he
So I
called
think
Q? Just call him
that
Wheeljack.
so that what that was Wheeljack. And now, don't get me wrong, the design for Q was brilliant, but it just hurt me that they had to tack on the Wheeljack name for it,
Yeah,
especially when I think that same year they introduced Transformers Prime Wheeljack, which you compare the two and it's like, I wonder which one's better.
yeah, and even in the G1 cartoon, Wheeljack was responsible for creating and making the Dinobots. And he was pivotal to most storylines because he always had some sort of gadget to help or to go wrong. to aid or to not aid the Transformers. There was one where he made an immobilizer that broke and immobilized everyone, so they couldn't move. But if on the flip side, if there's a problem where like an episode where Optimus Prime is down, he's like, oh, I've got a spare part in my lab. So obviously he's like the catalyst for the story. So whilst he wasn't always involved in the battle, because sometimes he was at the base like fixing and repairing with Ratchet, he was still pivotal to the story, no doubt. And to see him being tagged on as this is Q slash Wheeljack, for me is an insult to the character.
Yeah, no, that I completely agree with. Like I say, especially with, like, as I said, Prime Wheeljack coming out like the same year. I just couldn't stand by Q's design. I didn't think that was all too great. And Megatron, from the first Transformers film, the 2007 Bay one, mind you.
Good save.
Yeah. And Galvatron from Age of Extinction, I thought were just horrid. And if we're going off Age of Extinction as well, Prime, Optimus Prime from Age of Extinction and The Last Night, his design from the first three were just perfect, but they went and ruined it and made him look more like a knight. So
yeah, because he is the last knight apparently.
So I will say some discrepancies before we end though from G1 that I don't like.
Oh, okay. Talk to me.
Megatron and Shockwave.
What?
But not their robot modes.
Okay. Oh, yes, because the whole the impossible transformation, right?
Yeah.
Mate, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. There's.
I know it's everywhere. I know it's everywhere.
Blaster, Soundwave, Omega Supreme. They all shrink and grow and and
I'm not disputing that, but it's the fact that Megatron, the leader of the Decepticons, just the most badass, like one of the most badass villains from anything, really, transforms into a little tiny pistol.
Yes, there is a reason for that. So basically, his fusion cannon on his arm, obviously, it's a very powerful weapon. But when he transforms into the Walther gun,
I'm guessing it's like it compresses the blast to make
it
like armor piercing.
More concentrated, absolutely, yeah. And the fact that people like Blaster and Soundwave can be like 30-foot tall robots and shrink to the size of a Walkman, I get you, I do. But this is the 80s, so
I'm not disputing that. But the same with Shockwave, because really, really menacing design on Shockwave, but again, just transformed into a little gun,
into a purple water gun. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, like it hurts me to see such great designs just transform into like
there's
crap.
There's nothing wrong with them, in my opinion. Before we finish up, do you have, as a Transformers fan, do you have any questions for me? I appreciate I've just sprung this on you because I'm the host. But...
yes, I do.
Oh no.
Why do you always say that the Bay films are? Oh, it's hard to follow. I don't know who's who, what's going on.
Right. So when a Transformer transforms in the Bayformers, like it's just like an amalgamation of like parts. I can't see how they transform. I can't see it. So it just, for me, it's just a big kaleidoscope of mess on the screen. And then, now I'm a car. But like how did you become the car? And when they transform into their robot mode, you can hardly see any car parts on them. It just doesn't look good in my opinion, because it's too fast, it's too like raw in your face, kaleidoscope, you can't see anything, and then bang, they're a robot or a vehicle. And I think but when you see like Prime transform, he puts his arms into the chest, he falls to his knees, and then obviously his trailer, you can see how he transforms. But in the films and stuff, I just can't. I personally can't work it out, and I'm not a fan. And when they're fighting each other, the action's too quick or too focused on the humans. You can't see what's going on. So
I'll admit that is one of my gripes about the film.
It's all very well seeing Prime and Megatron fight, but I don't want to see Shia LaBeouf run around whilst they're fighting. I want to see the fight. But even then, I can't work out what's going on because it's too like, I don't know. It just looks bad in my opinion. But but I told you that I have old eyes and I can't keep up with
Yeah.
stuff. So
I think on the
that's
contrary to your point where you can't see where things are going, I think it's the opposite because like especially with like Prime, the first main transformation when he first gets into the city for the final fight, like you can see where all the parts are going. Obviously, the wheels go on his thighs. Obviously, the cab sort of opens up to get his arms from the front of the truck. Um, Obviously, the windows go into his chest, and more of the front of the truck go into his chest. And like you can see his engine come up from the middle of the truck and go into his design, which I think if you know what you're looking for, you can see all the details and where they're from, where they should have been. But I will admit some of them are too fast, but it works because it's fluid and smooth. For me personally, look,
well,
I know
yeah.
there is a mess of just random metal parts that are shown neither in robot or vehicle mode, but I don't think it's as bad as a lot of the G1 haters of the Bay films make out.
I think they're called G1 purists. That's why I think that's what they're
Yeah,
called.
yeah, G1 purists. I don't think that. I think they go a little overboard sometimes. Well, a lot of
Whilst
the
I
time.
bash some Transformers, at the end of the day, gun to my head, I admit that Transformers is for everyone. It's an inclusive franchise. If you like Transformers Prime or Armada or Energon or G1 or Bayformers, respect from me. If you love Transformers as a franchise, then I don't care who your favorite Transformer is. I don't care what your favorite media part of the franchise is. Respect. It's all inclusive, and whenever I say like, oh, Bayformers is bad, it is bad in my opinion, but people like it, and I respect that, and that's cool. That's no problem at all. But I think we'll end the podcast there, because if we continue on, it'll be next week by the time we finish.
True.
Matthew,
True.
thank you for coming onto the podcast and discussing one of the loves of our lives. I do appreciate it. Thanks for pressuring me into setting the podcast up to get it done, because I know you've been wanting to do this for a while, and I'm sure you'll be back on soon again to discuss other projects. And I want to say obviously thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah. So thanks for listening, guys. I really appreciate it. Obviously, this will be uploaded to my YouTube channel, which is Flood31 Wargaming. And you can see other videos on there as well. And I hope to speak to you soon. Thank you very much.
Yeah, cheers.